Commandment thing is still fascinating. We've said for 3 months how strong Florida is. This horse won the biggest races in Florida, and the top 2 jockeys in the country have said no thanks.
This is VSiN at the Track. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
Welcome in VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman. We've got more Kentucky Derby preps in the books. We are done with 100-point preps. We'll talk about the Lexington this weekend, but we have an official leaderboard now, Aaron. We're just waiting to see what the defections are and who is going to be able to draw in to the Run for the Roses.
Yeah, it's exciting time, no doubt about it. It's the most anxious couple of weeks until we get to the draw days, Mike, and then it's an anxious 30 minutes when they do draw the horses. So, the defection season is almost upon us, so we'll be here for all the good and bad news leading up to the Derby.
It's been an interesting last couple of years because we've had some of these horses drop out who are close to favoritism in the couple weeks leading up to it. We had an AE. Baeza last year, be able to draw in, be able to hit the trifecta and the superfecta. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. How many horses? Let's set the list right now. Okay, we've got 20 horses that are currently in the Kentucky Derby. Of those 20, over under 17.5 end up in the starting gate.
I'll go under for the current top 20. I would go under. I think just naturally there'll be a couple that'll be like, yeah, we'll just wait for a little bit of maybe the Preakness or something like that, and then we'll have an injury or two here or there, and then bam, we're in the under. If you would have said 15.5, that's when I would maybe waver. But I think 17.5, I'll go under.
Yeah, probably a bad number. Because now that I think about it, there's 2 on that list that are probably not going to be in the Kentucky Derby. So immediately we're already at 18. Be surprised if we did not get at least 1 defection. We'll go over that list. We'll talk about further ado. So happy in Albus, who won the major Kentucky Derby preps. The musical chairs of jockeys has officially started as we get our first and most important ball to drop on who Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to ride. We're talking about brace previews this week. We've got the Maker's Mark Mile, which is on Friday. Everybody out there, if you're looking for that preview, on Friday, so make sure you don't miss when that race goes down. We've got the Lexington on Saturday from Keeneland. We've got the Apple Blossom from Saturday at Oaklawn Park. We've got your questions and comments. Always appreciate them. Just comment right below on the YouTube page if you want to be a part of the show. And as always, we've got some best bets. Little Oaklawn, a lot of Keeneland. Stick with us for the end of the show if you want to get those best bets. And we'll kick it off with the news here. We had 3 preps. I don't think all 3 mattered. We'll start with the one that definitely did. I'm going to go with your boy because he is your boy of the 2 of us. Your boy, Further Ado, pops a 106 Spire. The best number that has been put up the entire season, beats Ottenho by 11 lengths. We'll talk about why that's important in a second here, and romps in the Bluegrass, Aaron. How excited were you when you saw Further Ado turn for home and just start opening up on this field?
Well, I mean, pretty excited because the race, you felt like it was over before it ever started, and it was exciting. I liked the way he finished the race. He did kind of flip-flop his leads late into the stretch. I don't think that's too big of a deal for this particular case. I already know what everybody's going to say. He didn't beat anything, and he loves Keeneland, and that doesn't matter for the Derby. And yeah, maybe you're right. I tell you, the horse has a lot of talent, though. I really think he ran pretty well at Tampa to get second to the Puma off that long layoff. I think he's a contender. I hear the detractors, and that's fine. I still think this horse is a contender going into the Kentucky Derby. I think he needed to run that kind of race against those kind of horses to become a contender, and he did. So I liked it. I liked the performance off a lot. I'm not going to be overly negative about it. I think it was very, very good. He did exactly what he needed to do.
I will play devil's advocate. I don't necessarily believe this. I want to make sure I preface this with that. You know who else beat Ottenho by 11? Yeah. Talk to me, Jimmy, right? That is where you can poke holes in this if you want to. It's that, look, that's great. You popped a career best buyer on the track that you have an outlier buyer already on, and you beat a horse that got beat by 11 by Talk to Me, Jimmy. So are we sure are we sure we're just going to believe this to push you to favoritism? Now, I don't think Further Ado is going to be your favorite on Kentucky Derby Saturday, which makes him a lot more playable in my mind. And we'll talk through who we think is going to be favored when we get to the leaderboard. Does this flatter Florida more, or does Florida flatter Further Ado more? Which way are you pointing that little Pac-Man sign as it chomps across the board?
I don't think it's as black and white as one or the other. I think it kind of helps all together, right? I will say this. I'm very relieved that he went down and ran in the Tampa Bay Derby, talking about further ado, because it does kind of make him feel a little bit better about, hey, it's not just Keeneland. Like, he went down there and he ran really well. No, it wasn't as good as his Keeneland effort, but it's like, at least he faced the Puma, who was a very good horse, and he was right there with him, and it kind of helps him. But no, I think I think no matter where you turn this year, the Tampa Bay horses we're going other places than winning or running really well. So it's like, I think it just strengthens Tampa Bay, maybe even more that it strengthens further ado. It is crazy. The more you look at this, and like, man, every good horse is coming out of Florida, because even Renegade, who's kind of the Arkansas horse now, not really. He was down in Florida all year. He won at Tampa Bay. He trained in Florida all year. He's a Florida horse. So that Florida circuit is just incredible what it's produced.
I think it makes it, I think it flatters each other, right? Because we always talk about, I think it's hard to say it's a bigger positive for one versus the other. I think what it tells me is that there's 4 legit horses out of Florida that you all have to consider, and really 5 if you consider Renegade a Florida horse, 4 out of Florida, 1 out of Arkansas if you consider him Arkansas horse. I tend to agree with you. It's Pletcher. He ran in Florida. It's kind of a Florida horse, right? It's the New York, Florida circuit, but he happened to end up in the Arkansas Derby because Nearly was in the Florida Derby. I think there are 5 legitimate contenders that you can make arguments for now. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see what the odds on those 5 horses are, because Chief Wallaby's sitting at 22. The plan is to run him in the Derby if he gets in, and the plan is he's going to be in based on the defection. So we'll see what happens there. You made a face as I said that. Are you hearing something different, that he might not go?
No, he's the one that's going to my biggest decision, because I still think he's right there, and his price is going to be very inflated. I made the decision, or the face of like, his price is becoming where it's almost, I may pick him. You know what I mean? It's like, he's just, the price is there. He's not that far behind those horses. And a lot of why he was behind those horses is just mentally he may not quite be there, but
hold that thought. Hold that thought, because we do have comments coming from users later, and that may be one of the comments that we are going to be touching on. Another horse that romped, and I got to say, I had picked this horse before, and I did not on Saturday, kind of regretting it, is So Happy Gets Home as your 7-1 winner, pays $16.60 to win. Huge price in third, and Vitruvian Man. Potente runs second. What did you make of this year's Santa Anita Derby? Numbers didn't come back huge. So Happy gets 100, Potente a 95. Sounds like both are going to be headed to the Kentucky Derby.
Well, I think I'll echo, first of all, what you said. We both loved him in the San Felipe. He ran like he did in the Santa Anita Derby, like we thought he would in the San Felipe, and that's why we picked him. We thought he was a really good horse. You watch that race back, 2 back, and you're like, well, he just doesn't want to go that long. How is he going to go 1 1/8 and get better? And he ran like we thought he would in the San Felipe, but he ran in the Santa Anita Derby, and I jumped off him, so I feel stupid too. I'll say this. I thought it was really good. I've always thought he was a good horse. I just didn't think he was capable of doing it going long, but he did it. I thought he ran great. I am still skeptical about the Derby. Even though he just did that at 1 1/8, I'm still skeptical at 1 1/4. He's going to be his absolute best. So I'm not really in on him for the Derby. I will say this, though. I'm over the moon happy for Mark Glatt, the trainer, all-time good guy. Of course, his wife just passed away a couple of months ago, and he's, wins the Santa Anita Derby. That's incredible. I'm happy for Mike Smith at the age of 60 to win the Santa Anita Derby. I mean, that is unbelievable. Still on the fence really about him for the Kentucky Derby, but you can't really poke a lot of holes in what he did there at the Santa Anita Derby. He looked very good.
No, he looked awesome. I mean, the holes that you would poke is Potente's not that good. Right. I mean, that you're really back to the same argument you would make for Further Ado. You could also argue, look, the California crop just in general has been worse every step of the way than what we've seen out east. And so why would you now change your opinion after one race? I was with you. I thought So Happy was going to be distance limited. That's why I wasn't interested in him in this spot. It's why I thought Potente was live. That's why I wanted Intrepido here, who ended up just not firing, which was really frustrating. I'm not going to use So Happy. I mean, I just don't see a world here. Now, the one benefit I would say to So Happy, if he draws like the 3 or the 4, he might get the lead depending on how the rest of this plays out. And that could to make him a player when we come down the lane. But I don't see the trip here for So Happy, that you're going to be really scared of him, because I think he's probably stalking and he's probably ending up 1 or 2 or 3 wide on the first turn. And then he's just going to kind of back up. Now, if he can replay this Santa Anita Derby and get that extra distance, he's dangerous. I just think this is kind of a cut below what we're seeing on the East Coast right now.
Yeah, it is really, really hard to trust just West Coast form right now. Um, I hate to say that because, it's really been applied to the Bob Baffert horses. They're the only ones that have really shipped out.
Yeah.
But, that's going to be a big worry. You said it, though. Post position's really obviously going to tell the story. What if some horses that we kind of like get really bad posts and all of a sudden this horse is in a really nice one? I don't want to throw him out, right? I don't want to completely say definitive answer, no way I'm using him. It's just as of right now, I think he's just a cut below.
Yeah, I think that, look, he is in the that maybe bucket where if everything is perfect, he can fit into the top 3 or 4 for me. Hard pressed to get him to win, though. I don't think. Actually, I can tell you, I will not be picking. So happy to win this running of the Kentucky Derby. Another horse I will not be picking to win this running of the Kentucky Derby is going to be Albus, who is your winner in the Wood Memorial. Shout out Harry Potter heads there as Dumbledore gets into the winner's circle. What did you make of the Wood this year? Are you with me? This is just a chuck race.
I mean, it was a race and they ran it and Albus won it. And that's that really. This was a very poor running of the race all the way around. An 83 buyer wins it. Every metric you look at, it's low. It was just one of those situations where it just felt like nobody was really firing. I don't really think Albus ran like his best. I think he can run better even, and he was still able to win. No, I don't have any interest for the Kentucky Derby, these horses. I'm happy for Riley Mott. Now he's got 2 runners into the race. That's cool, and I'm happy. Look, Albus was a horse you could get to. I'm happy for those people that cashed on him for sure. I would just say don't play him back in the Kentucky Derby. I don't think he's anywhere close.
Yeah, we talked about Albus a little bit and how this was so much of a better spot than running in the Florida Derby last year. I kind of kicking myself to not taking this, or last weekend, I'm sorry. Kind of kicking myself here for not taking Albus and going with Bravaro here, who ended up running fourth. One thing I do want to say, this was your classic collapse race. If you look at the half-mile poll, Albus, your winner, was in 8th. Right to Party, your second-place horse, was in 11th. Ocelli, your third-place horse, was in 10th. All 3 of them made up major ground. I actually was most impressed with Right to Party's, I'll call it turn of foot. I think everyone else was tiring more than anything else, but his ability to close late there. Right to Party is expected to go to the Derby. This is a horse which Kenny McPeak trains, which has gotten a little bit better with every single start, gotten a little bit better as we stretch out with distance. Any world where Right to Party is our superfecta surprise, running up for the 4th spot or running up for the 3rd spot as we get the extra quarter of a mile or 1/8 of a mile to run.
I mean, only because you could almost make a case for any of them to get 4th, that are coming from off the pace. So yeah, I mean, throw him in that list of, well, if it falls apart, he could get a piece of it. But no, I mean, I just don't see a world where I'm playing him on any tickets. And, I would have to hit the all button. How about that?
Okay. All right. I'm not going to say I'm interested, but I'm not disinterested either, if that makes sense, right? Like we'll see how this pace breaks down. But if it is really fast, I think you could make an argument possibly Right to Party, who is planning on going to the Derby, ends up running up into that like 4th spot in the superfecta as one of the horses moving. Maybe actually, let me put it this way, maybe a good head-to-head horse, because you're going to get some prices that are also big numbers that you can look at Right to Party, who I think is going to be able to pass tiring horses late, and you could take Right to Party, who's going to be running late, versus horses that are going to be quitting at that point. So maybe a good head-to-head horse there. This little different look there. Last piece of news, Irad Ortiz Jr. chooses Renegade. He had options. Commandment, obviously one of those options. Any surprise Irad's on Renegade?
Not really. I think it would have meant more if he chose Further Ado, because that's like he rides for Brad Cox and he rides for Todd Pletcher a lot. He rides for Todd Pletcher a little bit more. It's a little bit deeper of a connection there. So jumping on Todd Pletcher's horse Renegade, that was probably where I thought he would go all along. I do think it would have said something more if he was on Further Ado, because it'd be like, whoa, he must really like him, to get away from Pletcher and Mike Rapoli, who's a partial owner of Renegade. That's another big factor I'd say as well. So I'm not shocked, but I don't think it's significant, but I think it's something. I think it just kind of reaffirms, hey, if you like Renegade, okay, you got the jock. So that's a good news. I don't think it's overly bad for Further Ado, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. Saez now rumored to ride Commandment, so he is going to lose his second jockey in 3 races after doing absolutely nothing wrong, like literally winning prep races, and people don't want to stay on. What do you make of Commandment losing Pratt? And it looks like it's going to be Saez there. Are the jockeys telling us something, or is people just making too big of a deal out of this?
Well, the Commandment thing is fascinating, right?
Isn't it?
Because Flavien Prat's going on emerging market, who has just 2 starts, and when you just look at it like that, it's like, man, I that's crazy. You got on the Commandment side of it, Flavien Prat is riding for Chad Brown and Klarovich Stables. I don't think he could have said no to them. I don't think that's a situation where he's saying emerging market is much better than Commandment, so I got to go there. I think that's more of a, I ride for these connections 365 days a year. I can't really say no. But the Commandment thing is still fascinating. Mike, we've said for 3 months how strong Florida is. This horse won the biggest races in Florida, and the top 2 jockeys in the country have said no thanks. This is a wild story. And
so you mentioned, wouldn't it have been made more news if Irad chose Further Ado? Isn't that the same story here?
Yep.
Like, if Pratt thought there was a big gap between emerging market and Commandment, isn't he picking Commandment? Like,
yes.
And so he's basically saying these are about the same shot to win the Derby. One of them is going to be sub 10-1. One of them is going to be 30-1. Right? 25-1. So it's fascinating that we keep seeing these decisions made. And if you are a Commandment backer, this is good for you. You're going to get a better price because of it.
Well, and here's the deal. What we thought about Commandment going into the Florida Derby, it's like, okay, he jumped off of him because we think this horse is distance limited. And, he might run okay in the Florida Derby, but we'll see what happens. He didn't really run like a horse that's distance limited. He was dead last, and he passed everybody in the stretch. That's not exactly a horse that was tired, in my opinion. So what we've kind of thought and what the jockeys have kind of signaled really hasn't shown up yet on the track. Now, again, you said it last week, going an extra to 1.25 miles, going that extra 1/8 of a mile. Well, that could be where it comes in, right? So we'll see. But yeah, as of right now, we just haven't seen what the jockeys have been telling us hasn't really come to be the truth on the track.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. I don't think either of us were worried about that 1 1/8 at the Florida Derby. It's the 1 1/4 in the Kentucky Derby, and is that going to be a problem? We'll have to see as we continue the jockey roulette. As we get close to the race, we'll get official connections for all of these horses. We'll keep you posted, obviously, here on VSiN at the Track. We'll continue to update this as we go along. So the next couple of weeks, we're going to have, obviously, conversations about the races coming up, but the Kentucky Derby will stay as a highlight here. And if you're looking for more information about the Kentucky Derby or possibly Major League Baseball, make sure you check out VSiN Pro. You can sign up for VSiN Pro right now to get your edge in horse racing and across all sports. Try it for just $9.99 for your first month and get the MLB betting guide included. Head over to VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe and see all of the subscription options. All right, Aaron, we don't get to do this very often. Let's head to Friday. This is like Saratoga Del Mar season. We don't do Friday races that much in the spring. We're going to Keeneland for what is a just ridiculous version of the Maker's Mark Mile. When you saw the pre-entries come out for this, you're like, wait a second, this could be a great race. Then we saw the entries, and it is absolutely delivering. We're talking about Rhetorical. We're talking One Stripe. We're talking Notable Speech, Zulu Kingdom, Wolfie's Dynaghost, Tis Dashing, Deterministic, Brilliant Betty, banger of a lineup. Now, we did hear that it looks like Wolfie's Dynaghost is going to pass on this race this morning. He's planning on running in the on Kentucky Derby weekend, so it sounds like Wolfie's Dynaghost is going to be out of this specific race. With that being said, Aaron, where are you going on top?
Yeah, what a race. And you said it. I think this is the best race of the year so far. Now, it'll get topped, but so far I think this is the best race of the year. I was ready to play number 10 Deterministic, and then Notable Speech showed up for the race. And I thought, I can't do it. So I went number 4, Notable Speech on top here. Last year's Breeders' Cup Mile winner by a length and a half. I thought he ran brilliant. I thought it was a great, great race from him. Won the Woodbine Mile last year as well to prep for that. His other race in the United States, he did finish third, beaten less than a length in the Breeders' Cup Mile 2 years ago. But Notable Speech coming in And the biggest thing for me, William Buick comes in to ride. When Buick comes over to ride these Appleby horses, they're usually very tough to beat. So I did go number 4, Notable Speech on top. I do for a second want to talk about number 10, Deterministic, because I almost still put him on top. It's off of a long layoff. We haven't seen him since August of last year, but boy, has he been good since Miguel Clement took over training, won the Manhattan at Saratoga, and then won the 4-star Dave.
I'm still mad that Deterministic won the 4-star Dave. I had intellect that day. The horse ran second. I will be forever pissed off because that is literally the career effort from Deterministic. And intellect ran a phenomenal. They ran 133-4 in the 4-star Dave. Just a ridiculous time for both those horses. Was an awesome race. Now we're first off the bench. Clement's been on fire. I agree with you. I mean, I wish I could come up with a more fun answer to this question because this is an absolutely loaded race, and we will talk about a couple of these. But if Notable Speech is right, Notable Speech shows up, and Buick's riding, like, is the best horse, right? Now, the price, I think, is where we go. We got to talk about it. 9-5, I'm actually okay with a win bet. If this is even money, then all of a sudden Mike's looking elsewhere or playing exactas with Notable Speech on top and somebody in second specifically at a price. We'll talk about a couple of those horses here in a second. But I do like Notable Speech quite a bit. Going to pick Notable Speech on top. For me, I want 9-5, 2-1 to bet to win. We'll see if we get that. And if we don't, why is Appleby sending 2? The number 5, Maury City, 20-1. Buick obviously not riding because he's on the 4, but the regular jockey for this horse came over once to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf back in 24. Ran third to Henry Matisse in what was a pretty brutal trip. And also, by the way, broke through the starting gate before the race. So a lot went wrong in our first trip over the American sod there. Horse still ran really well. I think 20-1 is a crazy price. I mean, I'm going to play the Appleby exacta here. Both of them are in this race.
No, I agree. I thought he was interesting that he was sending this horse over. And, you know, look, that day at the Breeders' Cup, like I said, he ran very well. He's just had trouble staying healthy, right? I mean, we had 2 races after that, then a long break, and then we've been back at Maidan. Didn't run very well last time out, 2 races back did. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting horse. Maybe it's just a friend to ship over with Notable Speech to keep him company, or maybe he runs okay. Can I make a case for a 12-1 instead of your 20-1 and a horse that's right next to him?
You can, but I have a question for you first.
Okay, fine.
Let's say Notable Speech scratches and Buick rides the 5.
Okay.
Are you deterministic then? Are you more interested in the 5? Because I do think there's a world where you ship 2 in case you're scratching 1 and Buick rides the other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably more interested because Notable Speech is out, more so than the Buick situation. I think that Buick could just slide over because, hey, you know, you're going to ride one of them. Yeah. I would take Deterministic at that point, but you know, I think you'd have to be more into it, right? You have to be more into the horse because you know Buick's going to come over here and ride the best horse that Appleby has, and if that weird thing happens, I think he slides over to the 5, and I think he definitely becomes more live than he is right now.
All right, go ahead. Gush over Zulu Kingdom.
All right, well, I just want to, look, the first thing I want to do is just talk again about the worst disqualification in the history of racing, which happened in the Hall of Fame Stakes back on August 1st. Brutal. When the Saratoga stewards made what was the most puzzling disqualification I've ever seen in my life. So I'm counting the Hall of Fame as a win because he got totally stolen from. So he's won 4 races in a row. He did go on the shelf after that August 1st race. I hear you laughing. It's true. He did go on the shelf after that August 1st race. We haven't seen him in 252 days. So it's a long layoff, but this horse was super, super good as a 3-year-old. And first out as a 4-year-old, Flavian Pratt is going to ride again. He is a regular rider of this horse. And first out as a 4-year-old, and this is the spot we chose. To me, it's just like, wow, that's super aggressive, number 1. And number 2, it's like, well, Chad Brown could have found other horses to run here. He must really like how this horse is coming along. I don't think this is one that can beat Notable Speech, to be honest, but for second and third, I think number 6, Zulu Kingdom, is very live in this spot.
Yeah, I have Zulu Kingdom in 4th, so I agree with you. I think this horse is live. I was laughing because Luther ended up getting the win in that race. Joel Rosario had an all-time day on Saturday. One of the worst rides followed by one of the best rides you're going to see. He was on Luther. That ride was atrocious on Luther, got the horse into trouble. Zulu Kingdom came over on the first turn, cut Luther off. That's why the horse came down. Rosario's ride should never have been rewarded in that situation. Anywho,
No.
You're right. There are easier spots that you could have brought Zulu Kingdom in. I kind of wish it was a little easier. I mean, this is first out as a 4-year-old. You're going to have to be awesome. And we've also seen this Keeneland turf course play a little bit more toward closers than horses who have been forward through the first part of this meet. The Saratoga turf plays more to Zulu Kingdom style to me than this Keeneland turf course does. So that for me is a question mark here coming back first off the layoff. The fact that Pratt's up, I think, is obviously a good sign there. I want to talk about Rhetorical on the rail because this is where I would go on top if the 4 does scratch out. Ran third to Notable Speech in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I honestly think there's a world we just go 4-1-5 cold and call this a day. The race 2 back at Keeneland, the career best race over this track, going a mile, I thought was absolutely phenomenal. Then goes into that Breeders' Cup Turf Mile, draws 11 of 13, is wide the entire race, makes the lead in the stretch, and then just gets gobbled up by a couple horses because Rhetorical had to go sub 23, sub 47, sub 111 to get the lead well wide. You're going to get beat going a mile against the world's best when you're forced to do those type of fractions. I think Rhetorical super dangerous here in this spot off the bench. First out, it's 5 for William Walden, who we've seen do very well in these type of situations.
Well, 1,000%. I mean, he is a big time horse. Great race at Keeneland 2 back as well. I thought he was going to win the Breeders' Cup Mile for a while there. You said it. I mean, logically, you wouldn't really think so because of the trip, but it's like, man, when they turn for home, it's like, holy cow, this New York bred's going to win the Breeders' Cup Mile right now. And like I said, just got caught late, but ran fantastic. He's a huge threat. There's no doubt about it. I would have probably said, hey, Rhetorical's going to run in the Maker's Mark Mile. If you told me that 2 months ago, I was like, well, I'll pick him. But then like this amazing field showed up with Notable Speech and Deterministic and these others. But yeah, I mean, Rhetorical comes in with a big shot. He's a horse. His level of improvement has just been phenomenal. And you would think, he really got good towards the end of last year. You would think it's going to roll over into this year, and he's looking for a big season.
And we know he likes Keeneland. That to me is another positive there. One other horse I want to call out, the number 2, One Stripe for Graham Motion. I like this horse over test score last time, lost by freaking diminishing neck, not quite able to make it up in time in the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational there. What are you doing with One Stripe, who's just like, you know what, we're coming right back at it. This is a horse that first time in the U.S., Woodbine Mile, grade 1. Second time in the U.S., Breeders' Cup Mile, grade 1. Drops back down, dominates an allowance, then jumps back into grade 1 company. We're not backing off the thought that this should be a grade 1 horse.
I was talking about him a lot on the preview I did for the Racing Dudes, and I was like, in a normal world where this race kind of comes up like it normally does, where it's good but not like out of the moon crazy, this would probably be the horse you'd want to pick. Because you're right, he was much the best in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, in my opinion. And you picked him that day, and you liked him that day. And I remember I was standing at the rail at at Pegasus there at Gulfstream with my buddy Paul, and Paul didn't know you picked him. And he goes, "Man, that One Stripe was 3 lengths the best." And I laughed. I was like, "Yeah, he really was. Mike's not going to be happy." But
Nope.
again, okay, let's say he wins that race. I'm not trying to be negative towards this horse at all, but I don't see a world he can win here if some of these others fire their best, because that day he was up against horses that were good, not great. He's up against great now, and he's going to have to elevate his game to another level, in my opinion.
He is. The one thing I want to say, though, those first 2 efforts, specifically the Breeders' Cup Mile, this isn't a horse that wants to be on the pace. He's not as bad as he was that day in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He's not, he was 50+1 that day, 54-1, 13th out of 13. He will have a better showing today, especially if we come from off the pace, which I expect we do. All that being said, on Friday at Keeneland, race number 9, the Maker's Mark Mile, a grade 1 going a mile on the turf. Number 4, Notable Speech for Aaron. Number 4, Notable Speech for me. I like the 5, Amori City. Aaron likes the 6, Zulu Kingdom, a little bit as prices as well. All right, let's fast forward one day, head to Keeneland, race number 11 on the Saturday card, the grade 3 Lexington Stakes, Kentucky Derby points on the line, but it won't matter. None of these horses are going to end up in the Kentucky Derby. We do have a full field of 11 heading postward. Your favorite, the number 9, Easem, 2-1 on the morning line for Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt, coming off a 19.5 length dominating win in a maiden special weight. You're swallowing it with the favorite, or are you going somewhere else here?
Yeah, I'm really debating. I'll ask you. Let me ask you this question, and then I'll give you your answer. The number 7, the hell we did. Do you really think he'll be 8-1?
I think he will be 5+ to 1. I don't know if we hold at 8. I think the 9 takes so much money.
I do too, and I'm going to go ahead and do it because of the odds. Give me the number 7, the hell we did. I think this is a horse that has a lot of talent. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think he's got a lot of ability. I think you saw last time out at Sunland, he's a nice horse. He is a horse that can kind of blow out bad horses, kind of like Azum the 9 did. Give me the number 7, the hell we did, to win this thing. He's a half brother to one of my favorite horses of all time, Senor Buscador. Same connection, same trainer, owner, everything. I love that Saez jumps on to ride. Give me the hell we did.
Yeah, look, Fincher's not an idiot. And that anytime I see his horse show up in a spot like this, they're going to run. They're not overmatched. This isn't like, hey, we're throwing a dart here. This is a very good trainer that understands how to place horses. He's not shipping this horse to Keeneland to run in this race because he thinks he's going to get blown out. He believes there is talent here that can compete at this level. I don't hate the pick at all. I think that the hell we did is one of those horses that makes sense in this spot to try and take a shot against Izum. I'm not taking the 9. I would never take the 9 at the price that you're going to have to swallow with the 9. I understand if you want the 10 confessional.
Ugh.
Not for me. Like
that's the one I could never do. I would rather bet the 9 at 3-5 than confessional.
That Colonial race, man, and then the Nearly running second to Nearly doesn't look nearly as good after what we saw from Nearly. I said Nearly too many times in that sentence coming back. So there's a lot of reasons there. I'm going to go to a different direction. I'm going to go with the number 4, Enforced Agenda here, 10-1 on the morning line. Javier Castellano rides for George Weaver. This horse was good at a big number on debut, going a mile. Beat Ottenho that day, which I think does matter because Ottenho, at least in the conversation around this Kentucky Derby trail, comes back and runs in the Jerome. Look, it was a 4-horse field where this horse didn't break and was stuck on the rail. I just draw a line through it. Like, we don't know how good this horse is, but the fact that we were willing to take a shot in the Jerome tells me that this was a horse that at least had some upside from a talent perspective. Leon's map, tap it on the bottom side, St. Elias stable. All this tells me a mile and a 16 shouldn't be bad. Has tactical early speed. Like, is going to be able to save ground and not be 7, 8, 10, 12 lengths back. And they're getting the price in a race where I think there is quite a bit of speed that's going to go here. I like the number 4, Enforced Agenda, 10-1 here in the Lexington. What say you, Mr. Halterman?
I thought about him for a long time. I actually, back when he ran in the Jerome January 3rd, I liked the horse. He was my pick to win the race, and he was horrible. Beaten 5 3/4, but I went back and watched it again, and it's like he was just so green. It was just crazy. Flavian Pratt was on him that day, and that's why I thought, well, I think he's got a little talent because, like you said, his first race was pretty good. I like the pick. I think it is one you just kind of look at him and go, well, why is he here? Probably because he's doing pretty well. Is he going to stretch out and go 2 turns and run better? Yeah, I think he projects to. And look, you look at his works, they've been fine. And so I agree. I would give him a shot as well. I was kind of like you. Like, the more I thought about it, I was like, man, I really don't want to take the 9 at 3-5. And it is one of those horses. It's like, yeah, tip your hat. It's like, yeah, I mean, the 9 could win. If that happens, that's great, but it's just not a 3-5 shot you want to play. And I think that's what he's going to be. So I think the 4 Enforced Agenda makes a ton of sense to try to get around. Look, you mentioned confessional. That's just not the one for me to try to get around the 9. I am so over that horse. He's going to have to show us something. I don't know. Maybe he puts it all together and he wins. I just don't think you can back him. And again, I think he'll be like 3-1. I think he's going to be close to that morning line. And I don't want any part of him either. One more I want to mention. He's kind of sort of similar to the horse you picked in a way. The number 11, I did. It just kind of one that he was okay as a 2-year-old. His last race at Colonial wasn't too bad. He only got beat a neck. Maybe he's getting back into some of his better form. 10-1. I think you could find worse 10-1 shots than the number 11. I did.
Yeah, you could. I don't like the post with the trip. Like, it's a horse that wants to be semi-forward, and you're on the 11 post. You're probably going to be 2 to 3 wide on the first turn. You're probably going to have to be wide on the second turn. a little tough to get around it. On confessional, most likely horse to hit the board, but not win. I would. It's one of those where I'd be very surprised if confessional's not second, third, or fourth. I would be kind of surprised if confessional wins this race. I think if you're looking for upside horses, I think that you've got a couple on the inside, but you're kind of trip dependent on what you're going to get here. Not as interested in the 2 exhibition onlys coming out of the Gotham, where Iron Honor won and Iron Honor came back and looked bad. But the 1 Corona de Oro and the 3 Decisive Win, I think, are at least a little bit interesting. Decisive Win is bred to go 2 turns. This is a son of Nyquist. Still a maiden, but lost to Crude Velocity and Civil Liberty on debut going 6 furlongs. I think the stretch out helps. I think this is probably your early leader. Is there a world Decisive Win can go gate to wire, or Corona de Oro able to sit a nice trip and be able to push late trying to catch a horse like Decisive Win?
I like Corona de Oro a little bit better than Decisive Win. I will say that. I'm with you. I think it's very interesting. Decisive Win coming out of that Crude Velocity race. My problem then becomes, well, he got beat by Civil Liberty and he got beat by Duke Silver as well. It's not like he was second to Crude Velocity, and so he got past pretty easy. I do think he is your most likely horse to get the lead, and so maybe he can take him far enough to maybe get into the try or super, hang around there. This Corona de Oro, though, I have a little bit more interest in him. He's another one. He 2 races back, he got beat by a horse named Noble Fair. That's a decent enough horse. He did get beat by Confessional 3 races back. That's not great, but those were all at 1 turn. He stretched out to a mile 16th last time out. I thought he ran a lot better. I thought he looked better. I thought he was finishing stronger than he did in those other races. So I kind of think Corona de Oro, but the problem I had with him and why I didn't end up going with him on top is because of who you just talked about, the 3 Decisive Win. Do they go out there and kind of bang heads, right? That's going to be the big question mark. Corona de Oro has the rail. So if Decisive Win doesn't break well, or maybe he doesn't really just feel like running, I think there is a world Corona de Oro maybe out there by himself, but more than likely, they're kind of going to be banging heads on the front end.
Yeah, see, it's funny. I don't think there's a world Corona de Oro is out there by herself. I think Exhibition Only has speed. I think that the E-Zoom wants to be forward, wants to be on the lead. I think he's going to be forward. Confessional has some speed. If there's a horse that gets loose, it's Decisive Win to me. And if there's a horse they let go, it's also Decisive Win to me, where you're like, whatever, man, you're not good enough to win this race. Go ahead. That can be dangerous. Just throwing it out there. I think that the 3 is at least a little bit interesting here because, again, there's no reason to run this horse here unless you think that. And I will say this, Doug O'Neill, we talk about like Bill Mott in his style of training where he's not going to overplace. Doug O'Neill will overplace a horse. He will take a shot. And so that he is not nearly as conservative as some other trainers when going after this specific position. So to me, not a huge bonus that Doug O'Neill puts him in here, but at the same time, I do think at least has some tactical edge where if anyone gets loose, it is the 3, and Keeneland can be speed favoring. That is race number 10, the Lexington Stakes, Saturday at Keeneland, race number 10 there. The number 7, The Hell We Did, 8-1 for Mr. Halterman. The number 4, Enforced Agenda, 10-1 for me there in the Lexington. All right, look, if you are watching this, if you are listening to this, and you are not part of the VSiN at the Track community, what the heck you doing? Head over to VSiN at the Track now. We've got our own YouTube channel. Subscribe on YouTube at VSiN at the Track. You can find us again, youtube.com/VSiN at the Track. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube right now, give us a thumbs up, comment, what are we right about? What are we wrong about? We want to hear from you. We'll read some of those comments a little bit later. If you are joining us via podcast either on Apple or Spotify, we appreciate it. Give us a like, give us a review on there. Help us to get out to more horse racing fans and try and grow the sport. All right, last preview of the weekend, Mr. Halterman. A race that is near and dear to my heart because I have been able to see this race multiple times. I know this is a race that matters to you as well. I got to see Zenyatta win this race. The Apple Blossom, race number 10 at Oakland Park on Saturday, grade 1, mile and a 16th for the ladies, $1.25 million on the line here. And your favorite is the number 1, Nitrogen, who's one of your favorites. Are we going with Nitrogen here? Or are you going in another direction?
Yeah, it certainly is a little bit harder to just say, "Yep, okay, nitrogen, and let's find a long shot underneath," after she just got beat, right? So she ran in the Missouri. It was a sloppy track. She got beat by a length and 3/4. Kind of looked like a winner and just didn't kind of kick on. By Bayakoa, 2 races back though, she did run very well and win there. The problem is, like, you could go, well, look, it was a sloppy track, right? So that's the excuse. I mean, she should run well over a sloppy track. She has before up at Saratoga. So I don't know. Maybe she bounced a little bit out of that first race off the layoff. That could be as well. I'm talking in circles. I'm going to go back to her once again here. I just couldn't go against her. I realize Majestic Oops and Regale did beat her last time out. I think she turns the table. So I am going to take the chalk here and going to go number 1, Nitrogen on top.
I'll be interested to see what the price is on Nitrogen. It's been 30 cents on the dollar the last 2 races. So big time, heavy favorite. We're talking like 2 to 5 type favorite there. Honestly, 9 to 5, I'm in. Like, give me some Nitrogen. Like, I don't know if I'm getting 9 to 5. I actually would be surprised if I get 9 to 5. I do think Nitrogen's your most likely winner. She just didn't fire last race, and like that happens with fillies, and like the one frustrating part is we haven't had that race that you can point to where she just didn't flat fire, and you kind of what she comes off of it with. But she likes Oaklawn, she likes the slop, so like to me there I'm that's when I'm willing to chalk it up and just say, hey, if she didn't have it that day, she's still the best horse. The problem is the price. Like, if we get down to even money, then all of a sudden I do want to look in another direction because I'm not willing to take Nitrogen at even money. However, that 9 to 5 price is a little interesting. I wouldn't look at Majestic Oops or Regal. I think that both of them are overvalued off of that last race because they were able to beat Nitrogen, and I don't think either of them has really the backup that I'm looking for. They're 5 and 6 years old. Like, this isn't a situation where they're magically getting better. This is a situation where they popped in the right time at the right race. I kind of like the number 6. Near Missouri, the other Mark Cassian here, if I go some other direction, ran second in the Bayakoa, 2 Nitrogen. My one concern is this horse is probably best forward, and there is some other speed in here, specifically 5G and the number 9, Blue Fire. But I do think the 6 at least a little bit interesting if we see Nitrogen's price get too short.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting horse. And like I said, 3 out of 4 wins. The only time she lost was when she faced Nitrogen. He got second. She's a pretty nice horse. Last time out, it was a much easier race, but, just took care of business. No problem whatsoever right there at Oaklawn. All these races we were talking about have come at Oaklawn. So horse for course angle, you could play that as well. You mentioned 5G. I want to talk about her real quick because I think that's kind of a long shot that could pull a little bit of an upset. This horse was pretty darn good. Won the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Looked like a horse that was going to be, hey, we're going to have a little bit of a Kentucky Oaks chance with this horse. And then, got injured, came back in the La Brea. That's a bad race for her, right? And then came back last time out of Gulfstream and ran really, really well. That was going a mile. Now we're going to stretch back out to a mile 16th, but we've got those, races on the page that look pretty good. And look, she came to Oaklawn for the Honeybee and got second, only beating a length that day. So she's ran okay at Oaklawn as well. I think the number 7 5G is coming in here with a decent chance, not only to pull the upset, maybe not pull the upset, I should say, but maybe that's the horse at a decent price that could finish second behind Nitrogen.
Yeah, I think 5G is at least a little interesting. I don't usually love fillies coming from California, but I think you can point to the Gulfstream race and say that this horse makes sense. I think the lead is the most important thing for 5G. Like, I do think she kind of has to be in front to be able to have any chance of controlling this. And the question mark is going to be Blue Fire on the outside, who's been able to go 22 and change, 45 and change. Like, is Blue Fire going to push 5G to the point that 5G not able to have enough down the lane? That, to me, is the big question mark around those two. Your other girl in here, the number 8, Claret Beret, a horse that you picked multiple times, surprised last time, winning the Royal Delta Gulfstream at 8-1. She had not gone a mile and a 16th in the Saffie barn, but was going a mile and a 16th for her previous trainer. Any interest in her coming back, going 2 turns once again?
No, I mean, that was a pretty weak race. Not her performance, but the horses behind them. No, not a ton here. Maybe an underneath play again for Claret Beret. It was interesting. Like, it felt like when Saffie got this horse, it's like, okay, she's going to be a miler or 7 furlong horse. And then, but yeah, you look back and go, well, this horse did win going 2 turns in the past. So No, long story short, I don't have a ton of interest here. But look, that last race was good. It puts her within the realm. Now shipping here though, I think there's better horses to play.
Yeah, I think she's another one who probably is going to be a little too short because of that last race, where if you didn't have that last race on the page and she was 20-1, to me, there's a conversation, but at 8-1, pretty hard to get overly excited. Not getting too creative here. Race number 10, Oakland Park, the Apple Blossom, grade 1, number 1 nitrogen for Aaron, number 1 nitrogen for me, but I want at least 8-5 if I am betting this horse to win. If not, I am laying off and saving my bullets for another race. All right, Aaron, we mentioned it earlier. Let's talk about it now. We've got the top 25 in the Kentucky Derby leaderboard. And really the question mark here is going to be that 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 spots, because everyone in the top 20 is guaranteed a spot. 18, 19, and 20 all guaranteed international spots, not making it because of points. So if you lose one of them, you're not guaranteed to get someone in from a points perspective who's a little bit longer. Out of this list, I mean, we know that the number 1 Commandment, number 2 Further Ado, Renegade, So Happy, all going to be Derby bound. Full Effort is the first one that comes up as a question mark here. This is your Jeff Ruby Stakes winner, went through the synthetic pass. Do you expect Full Effort to end up running here in the Kentucky Derby?
100%. He will be here if he's healthy.
Okay. So then we have the Puma, Silent Tactic, Emerging Marcus, Albus, Potente, Pavlovian, Right to Party, all are planning on running in the Kentucky Derby. So 1 through 12 looks like it's going to stay firm in that case. Do you agree with me so far?
Yep, for sure.
All right. Let's go on. Incredible, Golden Tempo, Ottenho, all from what I hear planning. Ottenho, I think, is the one that is the question mark there for Chad Brown. Class President, in stark contrast, out. 16 and 17, both of them not going to run. Yep. We mentioned 18, 19, 20 locked in. So that means Iron Honor and Chief Wallaby currently in the field. What do you think about Ottenho? What do you think about Iron Honor, who I think are both question marks?
I think Iron Honor, I would be shocked if he's in it. So I would be comfortable saying I don't think he's going to run it. Ottenho, I think, is 50-50. I think Ottenho's the type of horse that's like, well, throw him in there. If the pace falls apart, maybe he gets a piece of it, right? So I could see them running him. Iron Honor, I would be really surprised.
Now, if either of them are out, Chip Honcho draws in, who I would expect to run.
Yep.
And he matters because of pace. He is a horse that's going to be a little more forward than some of those horses that he would be replacing. So I think that does make a difference. Now, I wanted to bring all this up and run through because Chief Wallaby is sitting there at 22, a horse that we clearly both like. When you look at the odds for these horses, it's interesting when you're trying to decide, okay, what direction do I want to go here? And you look again at Chief Wallaby sitting there at a significantly better price than the other main contenders that we have seen. Your favoritism right now landing on Renegade, which I thought was a little bit interesting just because of the last of effort from Further Ado. Commandment, your second choice, Further Ado, third, the Puma, fourth, Chief Wallaby, fifth. Do you agree with that top 5 in that order?
Probably, now that Irad's locked on Renegade, I think that's probably right.
So you agree with Renegade, the favorite.
Yep.
I don't think Commandment should be second choice. I don't think Further Ado should be third.
Okay.
I think that the Puma and Chief Wallaby should be second and third. And that to me is where I'm going to look at this. What price do you like? So right now we have 3 horses listed at sub 10-1. Is it going to be 3 or more than 3 on Derby Day that are sitting at sub 10-1? Because to me, that's an interesting breaking point between these two groups.
I'm afraid the Puma's going to be the one that takes a lot of money. And I'm not even going to say over bet because I think he's got a good shot to win it. But I'm just afraid that the Puma's going to be the wise guy horse and he's going to be a little bit of the public horse. They're going to see that name and they're going to bet. So I think there's going to be 4 under 10-1. I think Further Ado, Renegade, Commandment, and the Puma will be under 10-1 when the gates open.
All right, you're way too early, not that early. Kentucky Derby pick. I'll ask you each week. The official pick won't come till the Thursday before the Derby, once we have the draw. But right now, if I gave you $100 of Mike money to bet on this race, who are you betting it on?
Well, right now I would be on Renegade. I do love that Irad got aboard right after the Arkansas Derby. I kind of thought, I think Renegade's the one that I'm ultimately going to land on. I will say this. I'm really not like... This time last year, I just would have told you journalism, and I don't think it was going to change, right? And I was wrong, but I'm just being honest. I was on journalism for months. This isn't really that. I will not have a locked-on pick until they draw. But as of right now, Renegade would be my pick.
I am not going to change. I have conviction, unlike the person next to me here. I am going with Chief Wallaby still. I we'll see. It's like I may, because my conviction is not what it was prior to the Florida Derby. However, I can make excuses. And if I can make excuses and then I get the best price of these 5, it's hard for me to try and go in a different direction. All right, comments. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube at VSiN at the track there. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below. We're going to read some comments every single week. First one, what PPs or speed figures would you recommend for someone that is wanting to get more into handicapping? I've heard a lot of great things about Thorograph. Is that a tool that you use? I do not use Thorographs. I think they are one of the more confusing tools that are out there, and there's, to me, not as much data as I'm looking for inside those Thorographs, and that's why I'm not a big Thorough guy. I know people that love them. This is an interesting topic because inside of horse racing, specifically horse race handicapping, you will have people who are passionate about multiple products, and Thorograph is definitely one of those products you're going to hear about the people passionate about. I like DRF. Like I understand that the buyer number is flawed, but I think that you can use that to your advantage versus it be a disadvantage for you. And then I dabble with Equinedge as well. So those are the 2 main things that I currently use. What about yourself, Aaron?
Yeah, on the Thorograph thought, there are people that think it's the end all be all of racing, right? And so I'm going to say what I'm going to say next because it's not because I don't like them, but I truly mean it. They are incredibly overrated, right? Thorographs are a great tool, but some people talk of them of like, once you have them in your hands, you'll never lose again. And that's not what it is. It's a good tool. It's not the end all be all. I'm with you. Like I like Timeform US, that's now a DRF product. And I think Timeform and DRF formulator, it's pretty close to the same kind of thing. I think those are still the best. I think when you look at speed figures, they all kind of get them right and wrong different times, right? They all kind of measure different things. And I think they trade off wins. I don't think one is significantly better than the other. I do trust Timeform the most, but I think, if you love Thorograph, great, use them. But I just think the old school DRF or Timeform, I think that's the best way to, the best product you can use.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there as well. And like that, to me, there's like DRF is one of the classics. I don't mind Timeform. I don't mind Thorographs. It's just, again, I think that it's all about how you have success. And I think that you find your own success. To me, that started with DRF. That's where I've had my most success, and that's why I've stuck with that product. And I've tried a bunch of others along the way here, but that's still been the one that I have found the most helpful for me. I also think it's one of the easiest to digest in a bunch of products that are not easy to digest across the horse racing world. All right, 2 comments here. 1, in my opinion, the bluegrass is key this year. If Further Ado gets beaten badly or romps, that's going to change my view on the Florida horses. 2, I'm all in on the Puma in the Kentucky Derby. He's proven that he has what it takes, and the rest will be ready to step up to the plate. A 3rd one, I wish the Puma would not compare the Puma to Mage. Mage won the Derby, but nothing else after. That was from Paula. Well, I don't know if it's Paula Elson. I'm going to say Paula Elson. So we're going to go with Paul Elson, Rick Atkinson with the first, and then Hermano Figueroa with the second there. A lot of comments around these Florida versus California, or Florida horses versus Further Ado. Another comment came in that if Chief Wallaby is the 5th price of these 5, I have to take Chief Wallaby because I do believe there's some issues with him being in between horses versus outside horses in the Florida Derby. We talked about this a little at the top of the show. I think this is going to be your main argument point for or against pretty much any of the top 5 contenders, is how they fared when they faced each other. Because remember, you mentioned it, Renegade, Sam F. Davis, that's where the Puma was. I think the trip was more detrimental to the Puma. You disagree. I think that really colors how you feel about Renegade. When you look at these 5 and you compare all of these races, what are your key factors going into how you're going to kind of assess where they fall in that top 5 level?
Well, it's tough because they're all Florida horses and they ran outside of Florida for some of these races, right? Let's start with the Puma, right? I agree that we kind of see that race different in the Sam F. Davis, but it doesn't.
It's okay. You hate the Puma. It's fine.
That isn't even a relevant point anymore, though. Like,
right,
who even cares about the Sam F. Davis anymore? We've got 2 relevant data points. He won the Tampa Bay Derby and he almost won the Florida Derby. I'm sitting here thinking, should I put the Puma in second? Like, I think the Puma is going to be under bet compared to maybe Commandment and Further Due, and I think he's right there with them. So the Puma is a horse with those two data points sitting right there. He ran at Tampa and he ran at Gulfstream, the two strongest tracks. So he ranks up highly for me. You know, you talk about like the key factors of how you look at this horse, and we brought up Further Ado, right? I think if Further Ado, say he would have ran like at Fairgrounds and then he went up to Bluegrass and did what he did, I would be more skeptical. But I think the fact he was in a race in Florida that was productive really helps get over that. Well, he's just a Keeneland horse, or well, he hasn't beat anybody. Yeah, I mean, he's faced good horses and ran with them. So, you know, where that horse ran, I think matters. The Gulfstream horses, I don't think you have to worry about competition level. We've seen it. Though we can all agree to at least some level, those three horses in the Florida Derby are really good, right? And they all finished together and they kind of dominated everybody else. I think the one that's the hardest to judge is Renegade, because he did run in the Sam F. Davis in a race where, whether you think it was a horrible trip or just a bad trip, you know, he did beat the Puma, but he had a bad trip. Wayne's Law was nobody. Then he went to Arkansas. It's how you view Silent Tactic. I like him, but I don't think he's great. Well, he beat him, but it's like, well, maybe that horse isn't very good. So I think he's the hardest one to kind of get the gauge on from a competition level.
See, that's interesting, because I think the hardest is Further Ado. I feel like I have a decent idea of who Renegade is. I feel like Further Ado I think Further Ado is, and you're going to hate this comp, but I think Further Ado is kind of like nearly in the Florida Derby to me. I don't know. Like, I just don't know how good Further Ado is. And you point back to that Tampa Bay Derby. It's funny. I picked the Puma. Happy the Puma won. I don't think I'm going to pick the Puma in any way, shape, or form to win the Kentucky Derby. I think that the Puma will be on all my Superfecta tickets. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure that there's a world where the Puma is the best horse in that race. And so that's what's kind of mind melding me over here. It's because I keep going back to, like, I really think that Chief Wallaby's the best horse. And then you have Further Ado, who, like, that Keeneland race was great. If he runs that back, isn't he? He's super dangerous, but at the same time, it's just tough for me to tell where each of them fall here 3 weeks out without the draw.
When it comes to Chief Wallaby, I want you to do something.
Yeah.
Okay. And it probably strengthen you on your opinion. Go back and watch Sovereignty last year.
Yeah, I know.
In the Fountain of Youth, and then watch Chief Wallaby, and then go back and watch Sovereignty in the Florida Derby, and then watch Chief Wallaby in the Florida Derby. I'm telling you,
there's a lot of parallels.
If he can just get a little better, he's gonna be right there, right? Yeah. I mean, and he doesn't have to improve a whole lot to be right there. And so, when you said you're picking him, I thought in the back of my mind, man, I probably should too, because I still really like him. And if he truly is going to be 12, 15 to 1, there's a lot worse decisions you could make.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Honestly, like, now the more I think about it, he's going to have to get a bad post draw for me not to end up picking him here. Last comment coming in from Naj M. Salam 707 here. Renegade is the only horse I see in the Derby that has a turn of foot. Everyone else looks like grinders. As soon as Irad pushed his button, he was gone. I think that's a legit comment. Yeah, I think that the Renegade definitely has the best turn of foot that we have seen, and it was impressive in the final furlong there at Oaklawn.
Yeah, so that's why I've got him on top right now, because he was the only horse that I saw just take off, lift off, however you want to phrase it. And he was one of the only horses who it felt like, man, when he hit the wire going a mile and an eighth, he was just getting his stride going, right? And so that's why I like him. And obviously, Irad choosing him that's not nothing, right? I mean, that is something to have him. So I agree with the comment. I think it's legit. I think you just worry, was it a little bit kind of look like that because the horses behind him weren't moving that fast? That's possible. And B, can he work out the trip, right? Will he get lucky? Will he be able to show that burst at the right times without getting stopped 2 or 3 times, things like that? So that's the worry.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned it, but like, Paladin was going to be the favorite. Isn't Renegade the next horse logically then in that list as you go through here? As Renegade's done absolutely nothing wrong since coming back. Thanks for all those comments. Make sure you drop more under this episode. We'll keep reading them off every single show. Now let's move on to the best bets. We're going to start with Keeneland, race number 6 on Saturday here. Aaron Halterman, your first bet coming from this 1.125 mile showdown over that Keeneland dirt.
Yeah, I love how you set it up. It will be a showdown here. So it's a what? I said a slowdown, a showdown, an allowance race here. Look, I'm going back to a horse I've always kind of liked and just hasn't stayed healthy at all. The number 2 Authentic Strike for me in this spot. Way back in 2024, he broke the maiden at Ellis. Yes, I said 2024. Came back, didn't do anything in the Iroquois, and was off for a while. Came back, won an allowance by 10 lengths to end his season there in 2024 as a 2-year-old. And I thought, okay, here we go. Big time prospect. Well, he came back in February of 2026. He ran last time out at Oaklawn Park. He finished 5th, but he was very close 5th. He was within a length of winning the race. Second off this very long layoff, now we get Flavian Pratt aboard. I just feel like he's ready to fire. I love that they didn't really give up on this horse. They've kept at it with him. Rudy Bissett, usually pretty good with horses like this. And like I said, getting Flavian aboard, I think is a really good sign. So I'm going to go the number 2 Authentic Strike in the 6th race at Keeneland.
I thought it was a 2-horse race between the 2 and the 7. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I like the 7 a little bit more, but I see your point with the 2 as well. I think those are the 2 main contenders there. And I'm not rocket science here, 9-5 and 2-1. Obviously not breaking news here that the 2 favorites going to be likely 2 of the main contenders. I'm going to go one race further here. Race number 7, $120,000 N1X. Aaron's going to say this is exactly like the races you always pick because it is a kind of difficult race here. I'm going to go with the number 4. Ciro DiMarzio. This is for Wesley Ward and my favorite Joel Rosario up in the mount here. I think this race just sets up perfectly for this horse, who is another one who's had trouble staying at the racetrack. 3 races last year in 2025. All of them came off the layoff because of those issues. The race at Keeneland looks terrible on paper. If you go back and you watch it, it was in the 11 to 12 post that day and was 3 to 4 wide on the first turn, had issues on the second turn. I'm willing to draw a line through that one. This horse has gotten better. Clearly, Ward thinks highly of this one. He loads up his horses specifically for Keeneland. This is the racetrack he's trying to get wins at. I think that you're going to see a very good effort from the number 4, Circa DiMarzio, 4-1 on the morning line, Mr. Halterman.
Man, I think this is a race you always pick. Mike, it's so tough. No, I have this horse in second. I'm with you. I think this horse got a big shot. Call me if I'm crazy here. Tell me if you like this horse. I put the number 2, Love 'em or Liam, on top. Kind of a light bulb situation. Won last time out and then comes up here for Bill Mott. I thought this was an interesting spot. I think this horse, I think there's pace, and I think this horse can close. So I put the number 2, Love 'em or Liam, on top in this spot.
I don't hate it at all.
Okay.
That Gulfstream synthetic course is but more toward closers. That was the first time we touched synth. The one race on turf I thought was good enough. You're going to need to improve off the last one, but like Mott and Alvarado, not a bad look there, especially at a 6-1 price. I'm not in love with the favorite, the 6 or the 7, Noble Confessor, who are going to take the majority of the money. So I think this is a race where, yes, it's difficult to decide who's going to win. I think is a race where you can take shots against the favorites, which is often the type of race I'm looking forward to put a best bet in. All right, race number 8 from Oaklawn, going to be your second best bet of the weekend. This is Saturday, the Count Fleet Sprint. I was kind of hoping it was the Catfish Sprint, but it's the Count Fleet Sprint handicap there from Oaklawn. Race number 8, 6 furlongs on the dirt. Who you got?
The Catfish Sprint. What are you talking about?
You could do it in Arkansas. You could have a Catfish Sprint. Come on.
You definitely could.
You go. What is it? Noodling? Isn't that what it is?
Noodling. Yeah. Have you ever been noodling before?
Do I look like I've been noodling before?
No.
Clearly, if one of us has noodled, it would be you.
You do know what it is.
Yeah, when you catch a catfish with your hand, and you like stick it into their hole and try and just pull them out by their gills. You let them, you let them like bite down on your hand. The videos on YouTube.
It's very insane. Sometimes you'll stick it in there and it's a snapping turtle. Ooh, that's bad when that happens. That's not what you're looking for.
Fun.
All right, you got to be a man to do that, Somich. So it doesn't surprise me. You haven't. I'm just kidding.
There are no catfish like lakes of. I wouldn't do it anyway.
Well, that's true. Where you grew up, that would be a very stupid and idiotic thing to do.
You've also met my father. Does my dad seem like a guy who would go noodling?
Nope.
Nope. Not even a little.
I will just say you two are probably a little bit too smart to do something that stupid. All right. Count Fleet, one of my favorite races. The Catfish, as you say. I'm going to go number 8. Roll On Big Joe in this spot. This is one of my favorite horses. 3 straight wins.
Number 5, Roll On Big Joe.
What's that?
Number 5, Roll On Big Joe.
What did I say?
No, you said number 8.
I did. I said, well, race number 8 is what I did. Number 5, Roll On Big Joe. Listen, we went too long and we're going off the rails here. But 3 straight wins. Both last 2 have come at Oaklawn Park. He's beaten a horse 2 straight times named Tejano Twist, who I also picked when Roll On Big Joe isn't in the race. I just picked Tejano Twist. But look, Tejano Twist won last time out. Looked really, really good. Roll On Big Joe just a little bit better. So give me the 5, Roll On Big Joe.
Yeah, I love the last race where in the King Cotton, Roll On Big Joe did not need the lead. It's nice to see that diversification of the style because I do think you're going to see a lot of pressure on here. Should be a fun race with Roll On Big Joe up there early, Tejano Twist rolling late, and then some other horses like Wendelson and Booth, who we've talked about, as well as, I guess, Tough Catch as well, quite a bit on this show. It was a fun race there in the Count Fleet Handicap. That's race number 8 from Oaklawn Park on Saturday. My second best bet, race number 11 at Keeneland. I'm going to the maiden special weight level. We don't dabble in the maiden special weight level all that often in this show. It tells you, I think this is a 2-horse race, and I think that the number 6 West End Kid at 9-2 is a heck of a price here for William Walden. Talked about how much I like this guy earlier. 27% when he adds blinkers. That's what we're doing after a, we'll call it pretty wild trip. First-time starter here. So breaks 10th, 5 lengths back, is then 9th, 3 lengths back, then falls back to 11th, 4 lengths back, passes 2 horses to 9th, but is now 7 1/4 off the lead. And then makes a stretch run and only misses by a length and a half. Had to steady twice during this mile trip around Gulfstream Park, which they went 134-1. Very quick. You steady twice and you're still only a length off. Tells me you've got talent. Gaffleone jumps aboard here. Walden 28% off of this style of layoff. I think it's all systems go for a horse that should run a very, very good race after being a big price on debut. Give me the number 6 West End Kid, 9-2 on the morning line.
Good pick. Good
Thank
pick,
you.
Mike. Good pick. Like that one.
Here's Johnny, the 4 horse, the other really logical horse in here. I think it's one of those 2. So I'll go with a better price here. Yep. The number 6 West End Kid, race number 11 at Keeneland on Saturday. All right, that's going to do it for us here on VSiN at the Track. Thank you for sticking around. If you're listening, Apple, Spotify, give us a review, 5 stars only. Tell us why you like us. If you're following us on YouTube at VSiN at the Track, make sure you like the video. Comment below who you got right now. How many horses do you think are to defect before the end of the Kentucky Derby? And what did you make of Further Ado's absolute romp? We'll catch you next week here. In the meantime, good luck at the track.